Hello, and a very warm welcome to you. We're so glad you're here. Whether you are a school leader, educator, or part of the incredible support staff that keeps everything running, this video was made with you in mind. After receiving numerous requests from dedicated educators across our network, we're excited to bring you this special video designed as a comprehensive summary of the recent workshop series we delivered on end of year strategic planning and essential school tasks. These workshops sparked meaningful conversations, shared invaluable insights, and highlighted just how important this phase of the school year truly is. So, if you're looking to close your academic year with confidence, clarity, and a strong vision for what comes next, you are in the right place. Let's dive in and explore how thoughtful planning can set the stage for even greater success in the year ahead. As the school year draws to a close, what may seem like a winding down period is actually one of the most powerful moments in a school's strategic journey. The end of the academic year is a time of reflection, transformation, and forward thinking, a vital phase where the foundation for future success is carefully laid. It's a chance to pause and deeply assess academic outcomes, student progress, and teaching effectiveness. Behind the scenes, school leaders and educators analyze performing data, reimagine curriculum plans, and craft strategies to elevate learning experiences. It's when staffing decisions are made, resources are thoughtfully allocated, and programs for student growth and teacher development are refined. More than just closing the books, this phase is about setting the stage for innovation, sustainability, and excellence. Every meeting, every report, every reflection helps shape a stronger, more responsive school for the year ahead. You want to understand how you turn reflection into action and routine into results? Watch our video and discover how the end of the academic year is not an ending, but a strategic beginning. This video will have three major focus areas. First of all, we will talk a little bit about the traditional tasks that all schools do towards the end of the academic year. Then we will speak about the missed opportunities. And the major chunk of this video will be focused on the end of an academic year tasks in an outstanding school. To talk about the traditional tasks, as we all know, traditionally, the end of the academic year in many schools has been focused on routine tasks, submitting grades, packing classrooms, organizing ceremonies, and finalizing reports. While these activities are necessary for closure, they often operate at a surface level, offering little long-term value beyond checking boxes. When treated merely as administrative wrap-up, this critical phase misses a powerful opportunity to reflect, learn, and plan strategically for the future. True school improvement goes beyond the basics. It begins when we view the end of the year not just as a finish line, but as a springboard for growth. So, as we said, as the academic year winds down, effective planning begins to ensure a smooth closure and a strong launch into the next school cycle. Usually, The traditional tasks that almost all schools are doing begins by developing a detailed timeline that outlines the key deadlines for grade submissions, report card distribution, inventory management, the coordination of end of year events, last day for faculty, for staff, for students. So all the different key dates are specifically outlined on the school calendar. Also, as we know that the final assessments takes place during this specific period of time. So schools, they schedule the final exam schedule, standardized test schedule, and accumulating projects while ensuring that grading systems are updated and functioning properly to deliver accurate, timely results. Alongside academics, there are the end of year events, which are like graduation ceremonies, award nights, and school-wide celebrations, which are planned thoughtfully and organized to give an opportunity to recognize student achievements and foster a sense of community involvement and pride. Talking about stakeholders, we know that effective communication with stakeholders is vital during this phase, where we keep parents informed about report card distribution, summer learning resources, expectations for academic years. Also, we try to gather some information from the different stakeholders by running surveys to help reflect on their experiences and to guide improvements for futures. Equally important is preparing the staff, holding reflective meetings, discussions about the highs and lows of the year, maybe offering some professional development or cooperative planning days to set the tone for the next academic cycle and to just make them aware of what is coming after their summer break. So those are mainly the things that traditional schools they do in order to end their academic year. Why do we consider the end of the academic year as a missed opportunity if schools do not benefit from the time to reflect, evaluate, and act? The end of academic year period in schools represents a critical time for reflection, evaluation, and action. So if schools do not fully utilize this time, it is considered a missed opportunity because this phase offers a unique opportunity to assess the academic year, to identify areas for growth, celebrate achievement, and set the stage for improvement in the coming year. But not engaging in these processes, schools fail to capitalize on the potential for meaningful change, growth, and strengthening of the school community, keeping in mind that if we repeat the same practices in the coming academic year, we are just going to get the same results that we got this academic year. So one reason this period is so important is that it provides an opportunity for educators, administrators, faculty, and staff to reflect on their teaching practices, the effectiveness of the curriculum, and the overall educational experience. Reflection on the school year allows staff members to analyze what worked well, what did not work, which is essential for the continuous improvement. So by reviewing the data, student feedback, performance indicators, assessment data, schools can gain insights into how their approaches impacted student learning and well-being. So without this reflection, educators may continue to make the same mistakes, missing the chance to adapt their methods to better meet the needs of students. As I mentioned over and over, there are so many good practices all over the globe. But what we should deploy at our schools are the strategies that are mostly impactful on students' learning and their empowerment. So we need to reflect, to evaluate, and to avoid repeating mistakes in the coming academic year. Moreover, the end of year period offers a chance to evaluate student progress and school goals. Without making the time to assess and evaluate academic, social, and behavioral outcomes, schools miss the opportunity to recognize patterns or issues that may require further attention or intervention. For example, if a school fails to review the attendance data, they may overlook trends of chronic absenteeism, which could have a significant impact on student achievement. So, without analyzing grades or behavioral records, the school could miss identifying students who are struggling and in need of targeted support. Evaluation at this time helps ensure that interventions and support structures are in place to assist those students, promoting better outcomes for all learners. Additionally, schools that do not use the end of year period to reflect and evaluate risk losing the opportunity to set clear, actionable goals for next academic year. Data from the current year combined with reflections from staff can inform the planning of curriculum adjustments, professional development needs, and changes in instructional strategies. So, without this planning, schools may begin the next year without a clear direction or focus on areas needing improvement. By engaging in thoughtful reflection and goal setting, schools ensure that they are constantly evolving, addressing gaps, and maintaining high standards of education. Furthermore, the end of academic year provides an essential opportunity to celebrate both the student and staff achievements, which is critical for fostering a positive school culture. If schools do not acknowledge the hard work and progress made throughout the year, they risk diminishing morale and failing to recognize the contributions of their community. Celebrating accomplishments, whether large or small, strengthens the bond between students and staff and builds a sense of pride and motivation. Neglecting this step can lead to disengagement and a lack of enthusiasm for the upcoming school year. Celebrations, when done right, act as a reminder of the school's mission, vision, and values, reinforcing a positive, inclusive environment where everyone's efforts are recognized and appreciated. Moreover, reflecting and acting on the lessons learned throughout the year helps create a culture of accountability and ownership. Because when teachers, administrators, and staff are engaged in this end of year evaluation, they collectively take responsibility for the successes and challenges of the academic year. This transparency and shared ownership contribute to a culture of continuous improvement, where all members of the school community are invested in ensuring the success of every student. If this reflection does not occur, the school community may lose sight of areas that need attention, leading to regression rather than growth. Bring everybody on board, listen to everyone, let them speak, let them say what they have, because they have been experiencing the school life for a one whole academic year, which extends to more than 180 days. So they have a lot to say, and you have a lot to take in order to reflect as a leader and then set your strategic plan. Finally, the end of year period offers an opportunity for professional collaboration. When we ask staff members to meet and discuss the successes and challenges, they gain insights from one another that can inform their own practice. These collaborative discussions provide fresh perspectives and inspire innovative ideas for improving student incomes. So, if students miss this opportunity to collaborate across grade levels and departments, they may miss out on synergies that could drive meaningful improvements in teaching and learning. As we all know, collaboration at the end of the year strengthens the professional relationships, fosters a sense of unity, and ensures that everyone is on the same page as they plan for future. In conclusion, talking about missed opportunities, not taking advantage of the end of the year time to reflect, evaluate, and act is a huge missed opportunity because it denies schools the chance to make critical improvements, celebrate successes, and set a clear course for upcoming year. Schools that fail to engage in these practices risk missed growth opportunities, and and this affects the morale of the staff. Reflection, evaluation, and goal setting are not just administrative tasks. They are essential for creating a dynamic, responsive, and thriving school community. Schools that prioritize this time for reflection and action are better equipped to meet the evolving needs for their students and ensure continuous progress in all areas of education. I know that most of the time we hear that it's the end of the academic year, why we're staying for this extra 1 week or 10 days. Just release us. It's not about keeping teachers, staff, and faculty for an extra time. It's about making the best use of the information, the data that was collected throughout the academic year. It's about giving a very valuable importance for the voice of the staff members and all the faculty and stakeholders involved in the school community to triangulate evidence, to review the processes and procedures and policies, to identify gaps from different perspectives, because it's not about what I am seeing, it's about how they are seeing it from their own angle, involving the students, involving parents in reflections, seeing how they are finding value in what the school is offering for their children and how empowered their kids are when they are outside the classroom and outside the school is extremely important. Let's now shift gears to what will be the most important topic of today's video, talking about the tasks in outstanding schools for the end of year. So at the close of the academic year, schools must engage in a comprehensive and coordinated series of tasks that ensure the transition into the next year is both seamless and driven by meaningful reflection and planning. So at the end of the academic year, the most important work that all school staff and faculty should be engaged in is reflective evaluation and strategic planning to improve teaching, learning, and school culture for the next year. Those 6 points are what we will be focusing on throughout the coming slides and for the rest of the time of this video. We will be starting with the reviewing of student data, being academic, behavioral, attendance, awards, even their social and emotional well-being, everything related to them. The second point, we will be focusing on the reflections on instructional practices, where we assess what worked, what didn't, and why. It's very important for ourselves to ask why it didn't work and what would be ideally happening inside the classrooms and what are the evidence data telling us when we're talking about instructional practices. Documenting. It's very critical that we ensure that all the different evidence pieces and artifacts are in place in the right manner. All schools, they go through inspections, accreditations, school reviews, submitting reports to the board members. So where is our evidence? Where is the qualitative and quantitative data analysis? How should we organize our data and our documents so by then, when we have those practices in the coming year, we have what we need and it is done in the right manner. Professional collaboration, meeting across grade levels and departments to share insights, to align expectations, and ensure continuity will enable us to minimize and eliminate the gaps. What are we doing for the transitions? How are we helping our school community to speak the same language, see the practices from the same page, and collaborate together in order to form a strength from what we have inside the school? The fifth one, which is planning for improvement. We have data, we're collecting it, analyzing it. We need to reflect on it to set clear, measurable goals for the next year, including curriculum adjustments, professional development needs, intervention plans, additional courses for the high school. Those needs to be in place for us from the end of the academic year. So by then we have a very strong kickoff at the beginning of the next academic year. Last but not least, talking about celebrating achievements, acknowledging both staff and student accomplishments will help to build the morale and the school culture in a positive manner. What most schools do, celebrating students' achievements. At most, they go to celebrate teachers, but there are so many different stakeholders involved in the school communities, and they really deserve to earn that kind of recognition because everybody should be appreciated for the work that they do, regardless of how little or big it is, since it all contribute to the achievement of the school vision. So let's try to zoom now and talk about each one of those in depth, because I can see from the workshops that we delivered that schools they do some of those, or they have those as titles embedded in their school culture, but are they doing each one of those practices in depth, looking at all the different aspects required? This is what we will discover together in the coming slides. So let's start with the reviewing student progress and outcomes, which is one of our priorities throughout the academic year. As we all know, this practice involves a thorough analysis of a range of data sources, including assessment results, report card grades, attendance logs, and behavioral records. Such analysis must go beyond surface level figures and delve into patterns across student subgroups, identifying disparities in performance, engagement, and behavior that require attention. Teachers, guided by middle-level leaders and supported by assessment coordinators, must examine how students perform in relation to curricular expectations and international benchmarks. Principals and senior leaders play a pivotal role in ensuring that this data review is systemized and used not only to assess academic success, but also to inform school-wide improvement priorities. The focus must be on identifying students who have made notable progress, those who have struggled, and the contextual factors behind these trends, whether instructional, socio-emotional, or related to attendance and behavior. The main sources of data for this specific task are assessment results. And here we are not talking about the end of year examination only. We have to look at the summative and formative assessments, at the internal and external summative benchmark assessments, at the standardized test results, report card grades, and we have to do different type of analysis to identify gaps between internal and external. Is the data telling me that my internal examinations are leading to overinflated results? Do I have synergy between the internal and external? Is the summative and formative assessment results in harmony? Do I have gaps? Why do I have gaps? What is happening? If I'm looking at the diagnostic tools that I am using to identify the progress within time, fit for purpose, do I need to make substantial changes for diagnostic assessments? Looking at student portfolios as well, looking at their interactive notebooks, looking at their e-portfolio, are all those sources of data giving me a clear idea about the progress that my students are doing over time? Are they giving me a clear idea about their readiness for the coming academic year, for the areas of improvement, for the type of intervention that needs to be planned. So many conclusions should come as a result of looking at the assessment data. It's not only about putting them in Excel sheets and getting some data out and identifying who exceeded, who's above curriculum expectations, below, in line, and then what? This is the question. And then what? Also, we need to look at the attendance records, absences, tardiness, the chronic absenteeism patterns, and how is that having an impact on the academic performance of students. If you have cases in the classrooms with chronic illnesses, then what are the patterns of the absenteeism related to it, and how can we help parents to minimize the gaps before the starting point of the coming academic year. Also, we need to look at the behavioral data, the incident logs, the referrals, suspensions, behavioral plans, the awareness sessions, the impact of our practices, and how did it contribute to the behavioral records of the school. We need also to keep in mind the report card grades and what we are telling parents throughout the academic year. Are we consistently feeding them with qualitative and quantitative information that gives guidance on the progress and achievement of the students, and how does it help them to make further support from their endpoint? Not to mention here, when we talk about the range of data sources, the special education data. We need to look deeply at the IEP progress. We need to look at the accommodations done, at the support outcomes, to be able to plan realistically the IEPs of the coming academic year with realistic kind of targets that will enable the students to make the substantial improvement that they can based on their needs and abilities. Why reviewing student progress and outcomes is important? Reviewing student progress and outcomes is vital process at the end of every academic term, not to mention end of the academic year, because it serves as a foundation for educational decision-making, instructional improvement, and student support planning. This comprehensive task involves collecting, analyzing, and interpreting. This is what is missed in most of the schools, interpreting the wide range of data sources to evaluate how effectively students have achieved intended learning outcomes and to identify patterns that reveal strengths, weaknesses, and areas requiring targeted intervention. At its core, reviewing student progress means more than simply looking at report cards' grades. It encompasses a multi-dimensional assessment of academic performance, behavioral development, attendance patterns, and engagement trends to form a holistic understanding of each learner's journey. Teachers, school leaders, and specialists engage in this process to ensure that every student's progress is accurately documented, to diagnose learning difficulties, and to design better support systems. The data used in this analysis is both quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative data comes from standardized test results, class assessments, formative and summative exam results, as well as attendance rates and behavior incident reports, while qualitative data comes from the anecdotal records, teacher observations, student self-assessments, and learning reflections. Together, these data points help paint the picture of how students are progressing toward curricular goals and standards. For example, a student who has high test scores but frequent absences may need a different type of intervention than a student who's consistently present but struggling academically. Reviewing outcomes also helps educators identify disparities in achievement across different student groups, such as by gender, socioeconomic status, English language proficiency, or special education needs, highlighting equity gaps that might be addressed at both classroom and policy levels. So, when we thoroughly review and analyze all student-related data, we are able to identify patterns and trends, evaluate teaching effectiveness, pinpoint areas for school-wide, departmental, and even individual improvement, and inform planning for curriculum, support services, and interventions. That's why we see nowadays in the outstanding schools the formation of professional learning groups. And when we say professional learning groups, we mean that stakeholders from all different departments involved in the school community are present or represented. So we sit, we analyze data, and we engage the social counselor, the academic counselor, the teacher, head of department, head of curriculum, head of assessment, middle leaders, SLT, team members, a representative of the parents' body, and we all sit and discuss and try to see the trends, try to identify patterns, and start planning for the next academic year. So if we are looking at the roles and responsibilities of the different kind of stakeholders involved in the school community, we can say clearly that each one has a significant role to play in the first task, which is reviewing student progress and outcome. The principal of the school will set the clear expectations and timelines for review processes, approving the professional learning groups. The principal may lead the school-wide data discussions and communicate the importance of data-driven improvement. This person will also allocate the time and resources for data analysis. Finally, the principal will guide the school community on how to use the data to evaluate the overall school performance and set the annual improvement targets. Moving further the line to the senior leadership team. The senior leadership team are the strategic analysis and coordinators of the data review, as they facilitate the cross-departmental reviews, ensure data consistency and accuracy across divisions, synthesize reports from various teams, and identify the school-wide trends. Moving down to the middle-level leaders, who are the heads of departments or the grade-level leads. They have to lead the subject grade level teams in analyzing results and identifying gaps, keeping an eye on what is next to take the school to the higher level of performance, whether be it for an accreditation visit or an inspection visit. We are here What do we need in order to take this one step further? They will coordinate meetings to discuss trends and propose instructional improvements with a focus on the cross-curricular links. They will compare the current year outcomes with previous years to track growth or identify declines and set the proper programs to prevent that from happening in the coming academic year. Moving forward to talk about the supervisors, whether be it the instructional coaches or the people who are mentoring other staff and faculty. Those people play a critical role since they observe classroom trends which are tied to student outcomes. They support teachers in interpreting this data and adjusting instructional strategies. And they also help to identify professional development needs. We cannot underestimate the importance of reflection and discussing with the faculty members the data that was collected from classroom observations. It is true that after every class observation, we provide feedback for teachers, but with all the different tasks related to the school day, usually this feedback is given in a quick and brief manner. So at the end of the academic year, when the instructional coaches and the mentors who are supervising the learning environment can sit and reflect with the teachers on the findings that they saw inside the classroom and why they consider some of the practices more impactful or less impactful, then the teachers can start setting a different mind frame for the coming academic year. Moving forward to the curriculum heads. Their role here is to ensure alignment between curriculum objectives and assessment outcomes. Using the backward design, we have now the student data. What is it telling me? And how I can plan backward in order to make sure that the curriculum mapping design is strong enough to cover all the gaps that were identified during the academic year. They will also identify areas where the curriculum may need enhancement or scaffolding. They will recommend curricular adjustments based on learning gaps. Assessment coordinators, as we know, they contribute to collecting, cleaning, and organizing the assessment data. They generate data reports, dashboards, and visualizations for all stakeholders. Their primary responsibility is to ensure that assessments are valid, reliable, and aligned with the learning goals. So it's not about collecting and analyzing data, it's about looking at the validity and reliability of the data to help align the results with the intentions set and the learning goals in the curriculum maps. The SEN head, the Special Educational Needs Department, will focus their analysis on the inclusive data given to analyze the progress of each student against his IEP and the learning plan developed. Also, to look at the effectiveness of accommodations and interventions. The last And most important is to collaborate with teachers to refine support strategies based on data. We come now to the most important stakeholder in this cycle, looking at the teacher's role. Teachers, they review class level performance data and they reflect on teaching effectiveness, but they should be provided with a clear criteria that will enable them to do that and to have reliable conclusions that everybody else in the school community can take data-driven decisions based on what teachers' conclusions are stating. They also identify individual and group learning gaps. Teachers document interventions and support strategies that worked, and this will help schools to build the best practices repertoire, which can guide the new joining staff members for the coming years or the teachers who will be teaching this cohort in the coming year. For example, teachers can identify the strategies which were helpful to mask the class management issues happening, behavioral issues with students, and this will be helpful for the coming teacher in the coming academic year. We're not saying they will document the incidents, we're saying that teachers will create and document the interventions and the support strategies that worked. Last but not least, teachers will contribute to team discussions with evidence and insights. So when we go backward again with the stakeholders that we mentioned here, teachers will be present in the professional learning group formed and led by the curriculum head, the middle level leader, senior leadership team, or even meet with the principal to contribute to the decisions with evidence and insights. So to wrap this up, we need to keep in mind that when we talk about the review process of student progress and outcome, we are trying to talk about the cross-team analysis, the school-wide synthesis and target setting. We're talking about the individual teacher review and reflection, and we are evaluating the dashboard systems for generating the report cards, how we are collecting the data in the school, and how helpful is the system to provide the different stakeholders with versions of user-friendly data that can support them in the work that they do. What are the expected outcomes when we do the reviewing of student progress and outcomes towards the end of the academic year? Reflection is a natural companion to data analysis, as numbers alone do not explain the full story. Teachers are encouraged to reflect on the context in which learning occurred, what resources were used, how students were grouped, what instructional strategies were tried, and how responsive they were to formative feedback. Often, the most meaningful insights come when teachers compare the quantitative data with qualitative information. Schools may conduct the end-of-year student surveys to gather learner perspectives on what helped them learn best, and this feedback becomes part of the data set for review. In many schools, leadership teams produce an annual report summarizing student achievement and outlining priorities for improvement. This report often highlights patterns that emerged from the data review process, such as a decline in math fluency across year groups, persistent gender disparities in reading, or improvements in attendance after the implementation of new well-being initiatives. Ultimately, reviewing student progress and outcomes is not a one-off task. It is a cycle of continuous improvement. It informs teacher professional development priorities for the beginning of year induction, curriculum planning, resource allocation, and intervention programs. It ensures that educational decisions are made based on evidence, not assumptions, and that every student's growth is valued, supported, and maximized. Through the thoughtful and systematic use of data tools, collaborative analysis, and reflective inquiry, schools create a culture where every student's progress matters and where teaching evolves to meet the real and changing needs of learners. So, what we expect when we do a proper reviewing of student progress and outcomes, number one, actionable reports per department grade. Number two, identification of underperforming cohorts or subjects. Number three, list of recommended interventions and curriculum adjustments. Number four, plan for follow-up in the next academic year. So when visiting schools that claim to do a review of student progress and outcome at the end of the academic year without showing those four outcomes, then their work is not being done as a cycle for continuous improvement. So when we sit and talk about data, we have to keep in mind that we have expected outcomes that we need to get. So by then we have proper reports, we have proper information that will guide the decision-making process for the next academic year. Moving now to the second task, which is reflecting on instructional practices. End of year reflection is a cornerstone of professional growth that has to be carried out at both individual and team levels. So teachers should engage in honest, data-informed self-assessments of their instructional strategies, classroom management techniques, usage of formative assessment, and ability to differentiate instruction. Reflection should not be confined to personal matters, but ideally occur through structured collaborative discussions within grade level and departmental teams. The academic year is over. So throwing the blame and pointing a finger will not help at all. What we need to see is a very objective reflection to discuss and guide teachers through analysis of what strategies yielded strong outcomes, which strategies and which approaches failed to engage learners, and how various instructional decisions impacted student success. We need to look at the curriculum goals to identify where instructional misalignment have hindered the learning. We need to evaluate the accommodations provided to students with special needs and the success of the inclusive practices. Reflection must be intentional and forward looking, forming the basis for improvement, planning, and future innovation. Why is this an important step to be taken at the end of the academic year? Reflection on instructional practices is a deeply analytical and critical process that allows educators to evaluate the effectiveness of their teaching methods, classroom strategies, and curriculum delivery in order to inform future improvement. This process is not about assigning blame or simply reviewing mistakes. It's about fostering a culture of continuous professional learning where teachers and school staff engage in thoughtful inquiry into what helped students succeed, what created barriers to learning, and how teaching can be refined for better outcomes. At the end of an academic year, this reflection becomes especially vital as it provides the bridge between one cycle of teaching and the next, helping to ensure that successes are replicated and challenges are addressed. So, when teachers reflect on their instructional practices, they examine various aspects of their work, including lesson planning, differentiation, formative assessment use, classroom management, student engagement, resource effectiveness, and the implementation of new strategies or technologies. This reflective process often begins with an individual review of student outcome, looking at who met learning goals and who didn't, and considering the teaching decisions that may have contributed to those outcomes. It also involves thinking about whether students were actively engaged, whether instructional time was used effectively, and whether feedback was timely and impactful. So, here, teachers will identify the effective and ineffective teaching methods, foster a culture of continuous improvement, inform professional development and planning, enhance teaching quality and student engagement. What are the key focus areas? As we all know, when we want to evaluate teaching for effective learning, there are so many components that should be taken into consideration. Here, we're trying to summarize the main key focus areas that will give us proper data to evaluate and reflect on instructional practices. Number one, lesson delivery and instructional strategies. This is looked at from the analysis of the walkthroughs, from the analysis of the class observation forms, from the analysis of the peer observation, from looking at the lesson plan versus the implemented plan. Also, we need to look at student engagement and differentiation records. We need to look at the usage of assessment to inform instruction, whether be it the formative or the summative assessment. So we need to look at the seating plans. We need to look at the grouping of students. We need to look at the quality of the learning opportunities provided for the students. Do those learning opportunities provide the in-depth experience for students to develop deep learning? We need to look at the class management and behavior strategies. We need to look at the integration of technology and resources. We need to look at the inclusivity and support for diverse learners, including the SCN. We need to look at the collaboration and collegiality within the teams. When I try to look at the instructional practices for a certain school, I have to keep in front of my eyes the guiding statements. If a school is advocating a holistic development of students, supporting their personal, social, and academic development, then the instructional strategies inside the classrooms should not be aiming only at an in-depth strength of knowledge, but it would rather focus also on the growth and development of the skills and competencies as well. So the social and emotional learning framework should be embedded and at the heart of what is happening. The way the instructional strategies are being used and customized will be also a key to be looked at, etc. So when we want to look at the instructional strategies to evaluate them, we have to keep in mind what we are advocating for, what promises did we give for the community and the parents as part of the guiding statements of the school in order to achieve our ethos and to empower learners to become global citizens. Let's look now at the roles and responsibilities of each of the stakeholders. So again, starting with the principal of the school, this person has to set the tone for the open, non-punitive reflection, provide a structured process or framework, example, requesting the staff to submit SWOT analysis, refer to Danielson framework, etc. The third key role is ensuring that the time is allocated for structured reflection at individual team and departmental levels. Fourth task is review the major instructional trends and connect them to school-wide goals. Last but not least, use the feedback from all the discussions happening about instructional practices to inform the school improvement planning and professional development priorities. Looking at the role of the senior leadership team. The senior leadership team acts as strategic facilitators in this task, since they will develop and circulate reflection templates or digital forms, analyze trends across departments and grade levels, lead collaborative discussion sessions or workshops on teaching strategies, use findings to guide PD planning and instructional coaching plans. Moving now to the middle leaders, who are the heads of departments and grade level coordinators. Those people will lead the department grade meetings for collaborative reflection, guide teachers through structured analysis of instructional successes and struggles, support teachers in aligning teaching practices with curriculum standards, identify subject or grade-specific challenges to make future plans. Supervisors, who are the instructional coaches, will provide individual feedback based on observations or coaching sessions that they did with teachers, help teachers identify patterns in student learning and linking it to instructional methods, recommend specific instructional strategies, and help teachers plan targeted improvement strategies for next year. The curriculum head or the instructional quality control person will review how effectively instructional practices aligned with the curriculum goals, identify where curriculum delivery fell short or excelled, work with departments to refine instructional planning for next year, and guide adjustments to scope and sequence based on feedback. The Special Educational Needs Department will reflect on the effectiveness of inclusive teaching strategies. They will evaluate how well general education staff implemented the accommodations and modifications. They will identify professional development needs related to inclusive practices, and last but not least, they have to collaborate with curriculum and instruction teams to embed the universal design principles in the curriculum maps. Teachers who will be the self-reflectors in this task, they will conduct self-assessments of instructional methods to focus on what worked, what didn't, and why. They will share evidence of effective practice and challenges. They will participate in collaborative discussions with grade or subject teams. They can suggest improvements in planning, pedagogy, and assessment, and they will document action steps for improvement and goals for next year. What is key for us to look at here is the formats and templates that we will provide each one of those important key staff members to make sure that we come back to the principal having proper forms which documented the why, how, when, where, and what is next. So by then, the principal can take proper data-driven decisions. We forgot to speak about the assessment coordinator. In this specific task, the assessment coordinator will provide a third dimension for evaluating the instructional practices, as they will see the instructional impact through the assessment lenses. The assessment coordinator can help link assessment outcomes with instructional effectiveness. They can provide feedback to departments on patterns, informative and summative assessment data. They can assist in identifying gaps in how assessment data is used to inform instruction, and they can recommend improvements in assessment literacy or practices across staff. Ultimately, the goal of reflecting on instructional practices is to create a learning environment where teachers are constantly refining their craft and aligning their instruction with the needs and strengths of their students. This requires not only time and tools, but also a culture of trust, openness, and professional respect. So when educators are supported to engage in meaningful reflection individually and collaboratively, they become more adaptive, intentional, and effective in their teaching. Reflection empowers teachers to turn challenges into opportunities, to celebrate progress with clarity, and to approach each new academic year not as a repetition of the last, but as a fresh opportunity to grow and improve. In this way, reflective practice becomes the cornerstone of both teacher development and student success, ensuring that the cycle of teaching and learning continues to evolve and improve in response to real evidence and thoughtful analysis. Having all teachers sit together to talk about it is important, but the most important is the type of documentations a school is preparing to make the best out of every piece of evidence shared by the teachers. So plan your tools properly before you initiate this practice, because it's not about saying that we're doing it, it's about getting the best out of this practice when doing it. So what are the expected outcomes? We expect, after having this task properly done at a school level, to have written teacher reflections and team summaries. We expect to have a list of high impact instructional strategies. We expect to have a clear identification of the challenges and the actionable next steps. We expect to have department and school level improvement goals. We expect to have data-informed professional development priorities for the next academic year. Imagine the teachers will come back after the summer looking at the professional development calendar and seeing the titles that they have identified to be areas of improvement. This will give them a sense of pride because their voice is heard and action has been taken based on what they have requested rather than imposing on them professional development sessions coming because of some external trends happening all around the globe. Let's move now to talk about the third key task of the end of the year tasks, which is documenting. Schools should focus on documenting and closing out the academic year by having clear, accurate student grades, updating cumulative records, archiving assessment data, preparing classroom and teaching material, and having a proper review of all the policies, procedures, and handbooks available at the school level. So if we are looking at teachers, teachers are responsible for ensuring their records are up to date and reflect each student's journey honestly and holistically. When teachers are looking at the e-portfolios of their students, at the behavioral records and assessment data, there should be a brief summary written, descriptive summary written, that will summarize the progress done for that specific individual student, which will guide the teacher in charge of this subject in the coming academic year and will give the parents a clear feedback of how their child evolved throughout the course of the year, stating specifically what went well and what didn't, and what kind of support this child needs in order to continue in his growing path. Looking at the middle level leaders, they must review and sign off on department or grade level data to ensure consistency and fairness. Teachers have submitted the information about the curriculum, effectiveness, about the scopes and sequences, time allocated for each standard, effectiveness of resources, student data. They have provided feedback about so many different things. The job of the middle level leaders is to take those valuable records from the teachers and start looking at the bigger picture, which is the grade level data, which is the department data, to see how the curriculum is progressing, is continuous, is coherent, is achieving its targets, how the cross-curricular and the extracurricular are enriching the grade level practices and reflecting on the subjects, and how we need to complement each other when it comes to the standards and topics that are interrelated and overlapping between different departments. I can speak about the literacy needs to excel in math and sciences. I can speak about the mathematical concepts needed for the physics and chemistry and biology courses. We can speak about so many different things that might have an impact on each other. So the middle leaders, they have to oversee that all and evaluate the department and the grade level data to ensure that consistency is there. Looking at the assessment coordinators, they verify that all test scores and performance data are accurately entered into the student information system. Curriculum and lesson materials are already in place and scaffold and support the information system of the school. Looking at the inclusion head will oversee the updating of the IEPs and support documentations, ensuring that transition notes are in place for students who will be moving to new classes. Usually, schools are looking at the transition between phases, transition between grade levels, transitions when we have mixed classes and then we shift into a segregated level. But when we talk about individual students with needs and abilities, it has to be transition per student. So when the academic year will start, the person in charge of this individual student, he will continue the journey in a smooth manner, preventing any kind of issues that might hinder the individual student from sustaining the progress that was done in the previous year and making a bigger progress as they excel in their coming year. The SLT members are responsible for setting timelines and providing guidance, ensuring that all staff members meet their close-out responsibilities and that nothing essential is overlooked. When we talk about documentation and closing out of the academic year, as mentioned earlier, it is critical that we try to get those lists of evidence that are needed for the inspection for the coming academic year, for the self-evaluation process, for the accreditation files, for the strategic plan evaluation, and for the individual portfolios of every stakeholder working at the school level. The end of year is the time where we make sure that what happened in those 180 plus days of school are properly documented and they are filed in a user-friendly manner for the coming academic year to be accessible for everybody. Why is documenting a critical task? Documenting involves finalizing a wide array of administrative, academic, and logistic responsibilities. This process ensures that all student records are accurate, that instructional materials are properly archived for future use, and that transitions are as smooth as possible for both students and teachers as they move into the next academic cycle. It is a multifaceted process that requires careful attention to detail, organization, and collaboration, all while ensuring that everything is in place to support continued educational progress. So the documenting task is important because we are finalizing grades and reports, updating and archiving student records, looking at the instructional material organization and handover, the SCN and support services documentation, transition planning and handover for the incoming staff, inventory, resource collection, and classroom close-up, professional, reflective logs. So those are the key components of the end of year documenting task. Moving forward to talk about the roles and responsibilities of each of the stakeholders, we will start with the principal, whose role is key in leadership and accountability. So the principal will set and communicate the clear deadlines for grade submission, record updates, and close-ups, oversee the overall year-end process, and to ensure compliance with the school policies, review the high-level reports on grading trends, promotion, retention decisions, and pending issues, and ensure that all teams are coordinating transitions for students moving between grades or leaving the school. The senior leadership team will monitor the completion status of grade submissions and documentation. They will coordinate with the registrar, IT, or student information system team to ensure data entry accurate. They will facilitate meetings to resolve any discrepancies in grading or student records, support transition plans in terms of promotion, retention, classroom placement, and other decisions. Middle leaders, they will act as team managers and compliance leads as they ensure that all teachers in their department, they submit grades on time. They will write comments and briefs about the progress of individual students throughout the year. They review for accuracy, consistency, and fairness across sections. They collect and organize instructional resources and assessments for department archives, support handover documentations for the incoming teachers, such as the curriculum maps, spacing guides, scopes, and sequences. Moving now to the supervisors, who are the instructional coaches, they will assist teachers with grading final assessments or long-term projects if needed, review samples of marked student work for consistency and standardization, help teachers organize teaching materials and lesson plans, collect teachers' self-assessment and reflections in order to identify trends. Heads of curriculum will look at the final versions of unit plans, schemes of work, and curriculum maps for updates and for archiving of instructional resources, digital content created throughout the year, review how well the planned curriculum was delivered and documented, coordinate with departments to prepare materials for the upcoming academic year. And here I need to pause a little bit to talk about the critical role of curriculum heads when it comes to the end of year tasks. It is surprising to me when I see well-established schools who have been running for years and years, and every year they start their lesson plans and their unit plans from scratch as if this is their first year to operate. At the end of the academic year, it is critical for the curriculum head to do proper archiving for all the lesson plans, for all subjects, and to link that to the unit plans by creating hyperlinks, connecting it further with the pacing guides by creating hyperlinks. If we are not using software which can link all of this database together. Once we do proper archiving, then we are ensuring that in the coming year, we have proper support for any new joining teachers or teachers who are struggling with constructing proper lesson plans for their subjects. Even though we have AI tools nowadays who are providing all the planning in the world, but this planning was not administered at your school. It was not practiced with your students in your context. So whatever is being generated by AI tools or given by external parties, it's not as important as what your teachers have prepared throughout the year. So once you collect the data from them, collecting their versions of unit plans, their schemes of work, make sure that you file it in a user-friendly manner. So by then your database is growing and you have the archive from year to year to year and people can benefit from it, thus building the best practices database which can live for generations to come for your school, applicable to your cohort. Looking now at the assessment coordinator, who is the person looking for data integrity and reporting, the job mainly here is to generate the end-of-year performance reports for SLT and teachers, validate and upload the final assessment results, ensure standardization of grading and reporting formats across subjects, archiving the assessments and rubrics for audit and planning use, and coordinating with the curriculum heads and SLT to analyze assessment outcomes. Moving further to the SEN department heads, we are looking at the IEPs to ensure that the IEPs, learning plans, and intervention logs are updated and stored securely. We are looking at the second task, which is preparing for transition notes for SEN students advancing to new grades or leaving the school, meeting with teachers and support staff to brief them on student needs and strategies, the findings of analyzing the IEPs of students, and the most important for the SEN hats is to coordinate with families for continuity of care. So by then, at the beginning of the academic year, we are not seeing a huge regression for the progress that was achieved with those students throughout the academic year. For our teachers, when we talk about documentation, the massive amount of evidence will come from teachers as they finalize and submit grades and narrative comments for individual students, as they ensure the alignment between recorded grades and actual student performance, as they submit the updated student records, being the portfolios, the notes, the learning plans, as they organize and archive the instructional materials, being digital or physical, prepare the transition notes for students, especially those with special needs or major concerns, as they finalize and reset the classroom spaces, including returning all the resources or storing the resources to be used in the coming academic year. Finally, when we talk about the documenting process or task, we need to keep in mind that we are overseeing the entire process of closing out the year as a time to document objectively all the different processes and practices that took place throughout the academic year, and we look at how we will benefit from our experience in the context of the school. We learn lessons, so by then we can improve our performance in the coming year. What are the expected outcomes when we do the practice of documenting? First of all, we will have, we are expecting accurate and complete student records. We're expecting organized instructional and assessment archives. We're expecting documented reflections and departmental summaries, clean, secure, and ready classrooms for next year, smooth student and teacher transition. In sum, documenting and closing out the year is a comprehensive process that demands attention to detail, collaboration, and careful planning. By finalizing grades, updating records, organizing materials, and ensuring smooth transitions for students, educators can create a seamless transition into the next academic year. The tools used, whether digital platforms for grades and records, cloud storage for instructional materials, or communication systems for coordinating transitions, are essential for keeping everything organized and accessible. When these tasks are handled effectively, it ensures that both students and teachers are well prepared for a strong kickoff and successful year ahead. Moving forward to talk about the fourth task, which is the professional collaboration. At its core, professional collaboration focuses on the sharing of insights and strategies that have worked well for individual educators, as well as discussing challenges faced in the classroom. By meeting regularly across grade levels and departments, teachers and staff can align their expectations and work together toward common objectives. For example, a middle school math teacher might collaborate with a science teacher to integrate concepts across disciplines ensuring that students see connections between subjects and can apply their learning in a more holistic way. Collaboration also allows teachers to align instructional goals, ensuring that there is a coherent progression of skills and knowledge from one grade level to the next. For instance, elementary school teachers can meet with middle school educators to ensure that the foundational skills taught in earlier grades are reinforced and built upon in subsequent years. This alignment not only helps create a more seamless learning experience for students, but also helps teachers maintain consistency in their expectations and approach to content delivery. Vertical articulation meetings ensure that the skills and content taught at one level prepare students for the challenges of the next, where teachers from adjacent grade levels meet in order to talk about the skills and content taught at one level, preparing students for the next academic year. Those meetings will allow teachers to discuss student readiness, identify curriculum gaps, and align assessment practices. My question at this point to teachers who did not finish the curriculum set standards for that grade level: how can the teacher who's teaching this subject in the coming year predict or know about it? Or is it going to be kept as a surprise? So, vertical articulation meetings should focus mainly on the coverage of the standards, on the depth of learning that happened, on the main concerns or gaps that teachers have identified when they were analyzing the formative and summative data results of students, in order to give the teacher heads up about the concepts that they have to give more focus on or prepare more resources since those were not covered in a strong manner in the previous year. Third thing we will talk about is the cross-department collaboration, which fosters the interdisciplinary connections to ensure that foundational skills like writing, research, and critical thinking are reinforced across subjects. Here, curriculum leaders, assessment coordinators, and instructional coaches will support these meetings by providing data, facilitating conversation, and helping align goals with broader school improvement targets. Why is professional collaboration important? Ultimately, professional collaboration is about building a shared understanding and collective responsibility for student success. It allows educators to work together to create a more cohesive and effective educational experience for students, ensuring that teaching practices are aligned, expectations are consistent, and all students have the support that they need to thrive. By fostering a culture of collaboration, schools can empower teachers to improve their practice consistently, improve student outcome across the board, and have a common understanding of the guiding statements, which are the foundation of all the practices and systems existing at the school level. Whether through structured PLCs, data-driven discussions, or informal exchanges, the tools and strategies used to support professional collaboration are essential for ensuring that educators are working together toward the shared goal of student success. So, to facilitate structured collaboration, we need to make sure that we share instructional insights and reflect on the year's experience, align the academic and behavioral expectations across grade levels, ensure curricular and instructional continuity, improve student transitions and learning outcomes, strengthening a cohesive school culture of professional learning. Looking quickly at the roles and responsibilities for this task, it's important to mention that professional collaboration is not just limited to teachers. School leaders, including principals and department heads, play a role in facilitating collaboration. They can provide the structure, resources, and time needed for collaborative efforts, as well as giving their insights of how they perceive the information and what is the thinking process behind the decision making of the school in general. So principals, they will participate in strategic discussions to support decision making. Senior leaders will facilitate the cross-functional and cross-grade working groups. They will collect insights and ensure they're reflected in the PD planning and curriculum decisions, and they will coordinate follow-up actions and timelines. The middle leaders, they will lead meetings within and across subject areas, summarize key findings and submit them to the SLT, and support the vertical alignment of curriculum goals and student expectations. Supervisors, who are the instructional coaches, will offer pedagogical insights and evidence-based practices to assist in planning and facilitating the collaborative meetings. They will identify areas for coaching or peer support in the next year, and they will document the effective instructional strategies and recurring challenges. Curriculum heads have a vital role in ensuring vertical and horizontal alignment of curriculum standards and pacing. They will identify the curriculum redundancies, gaps, or misalignments across grades or subjects. They will guide integration of interdisciplinary approaches where appropriate, and they will collect and analyze the curriculum delivery feedback from teachers. Regarding the assessment coordinators, they will prepare the comparative data sets on student progress across grades, support teams in interpreting assessment results to inform instructional planning, provide templates or visuals to facilitate data-driven decisions, and collaborate mainly with the curriculum heads to connect data findings to instructional practices. The inclusion department will share insights on accommodations and strategies that worked for SEN students, coordinate transition planning for students requiring ongoing support, train general education teachers in inclusive strategies for students entering their grades, and ensure IEP goals and support are considered in planning for the next grade. Teachers, they will participate in decisions with openness and evidence from their practice, sharing effective strategies, student work samples, or assessment tools. They will document challenges and set specific recommendations for the SLT team to act upon, and they will collaborate on cross-grade or cross-subject initiatives. What are the expected outcomes from the professional collaboration? First of all, we expect to have documented meeting minutes with key insights and action steps, identified areas for vertical alignment, improved student transition protocols, curriculum and instructional recommendations, and professional development focus areas. the importance of the professional collaboration for a school is critical in creating greater consistency in instructional expectations and outcomes. The professional collaboration make a school very rich in terms of its culture and help to establish a proper school climate which can give the sense of a better informed uh, kind of teacher agency that will reflect the strength in the collaboration culture of that school system. Moving now to the fifth task, which is planning for improvement. As we all know, planning for improvement involves using the data and reflections to set clear, actionable goals for the next academic year. This process is essential for ensuring that schools and educators continue to evolve, adapt, and meet the challenging needs of students while also enhancing the overall quality of education. At its core, planning for improvement is about taking stock of the current state of teaching and learning, analyzing various forms of data, and using those insights to create a roadmap for future progress. It goes beyond simple assessing of past performance. It involves setting specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound goals and to drive the future decision making process. So when we talk about the SMART goals, we talk about having the SWOT analysis being conducted. We're talking about having a proper structure where we as stakeholders contribute to set clear measurable goals for the upcoming year. We're talking about making sure that the goals are informed by evidence, identifying not just what needs improvement, but why it needs improvement and how success will be measured. Why is this step important to be done at the end of the academic year? I can simply say because the strategic planning and planning for improvement is not only related to the principal and the SLT. Everybody should be involved in setting the goals and setting the strategic plan. So why is it important? Because we will be setting clear and actionable goals. We will be identifying and planning curriculum revisions. We'll be establishing professional development priorities and aligning improvement plans with long-term school goals. What we need to keep in mind, and that's why every task has this slide posted, we have to keep in mind that decisions should be done with the involvement of everyone working at the school level because each one can contribute in their area. What usually is happening at the school level, setting the planning for improvement is coming from the main principal, SLT, and MLL categories without having the input from everybody. So when we talk about roles and responsibilities, let's start here with the teacher. The teacher will reflect on personal and department performance data to set individual goals, contribute to the departmental or the grade level goal setting, provide feedback on curriculum challenges and instructional needs, and suggest resources, tools, or strategies for better student engagement or outcome. And they will commit to actionable classroom level changes based on data. So we will take this information from them and from the SCN department, who will feed on the SCN progress data, intervention models, training needs, and the progress of the individual SCN students based on their IEPs. This data is the foundational block which should be taken backward by the assessment coordinator, curriculum head, supervisor, MLL, SLT, and the principal to have the coherent plan for improvement where there is a very well thought school-wide review of data and goal setting where there will be an overall improvement planning process that takes into consideration the objective reflections of all the stakeholders, and we will be able to ensure the alignment between the school improvement goals and the student, teacher, staff, and faculty needs based on their experience throughout the academic year with the students. So it will be based on data-driven evidence. It will be based on collaborative meeting outcomes. It will be based on the review of the year-end data, and it will guide the planning of the strategic targets and the improvement plans for the whole school. What are the expected outcomes? We expect to have, as a result, if the planning for improvement is properly practiced at the school, number one, school-wide improvement plan with SMART goals, departmental and grade level action plans, revised curriculum maps and scopes and sequences, PD plan alignment to staff needs, clear metrics and timelines for monitoring progress, improved coordination across instruction, assessment, and support services. So, as a summary, planning for improvement is a dynamic and ongoing process that involves reflecting on past performance, setting clear goals, adjusting curriculum, and providing professional development. By using data and reflection to drive decision making, schools can ensure that they are consistently evolving to meet the needs of their students, whether through curriculum adjustments, targeted professional development, continuous monitoring. The process of planning for improvement helps create a learning environment where both teachers and students can thrive. Using the proper planning for improvement cycle contributes to minimizing the turnover rate of teachers and maximizing the ownership of school community for the success of the school over years. The last task that we will talk about, which is celebrating achievements. Celebrating achievements in a school setting is an integral practice that fosters a positive, supportive environment for both students and staff. Acknowledging accomplishments, whether academic, social, or personal, helps to build morale, strengthen school culture, and motivate everyone involved to continue thriving for excellence. At its core, celebrating achievement is about recognizing both student and staff accomplishments, recognizing the hard work, perseverance, and dedication that contribute to success. When these achievements are celebrated, they create an atmosphere of appreciation, reinforcing positive behavior and enhancing the emotional and social well-being of individuals. The act of recognition, whether public or private, re-emphasizes the values of effort, collaboration, and growth, making it clear that both students and staff are valued members of the school community. When achievements are celebrated, it sends the message that progress and hard work are appreciated regardless of whether the achievement is small or big. For students, this could be academic milestones such as test scores, mastering a difficult concept, demonstrating leadership in a group project. It might also include social achievements like overcoming personal challenges or showing empathy towards others. Celebrating these moments can significantly boost students' confidence and self-esteem, encouraging them to continue pursuing their goals. Similarly, for staff, achievements could range from successfully implementing a new strategy, completing professional development program, or collaborating effectively with colleagues. Celebrations can take many forms, such as assemblies, newsletters, photo displays, video presentations, or casual classroom events. Celebrating achievements not only ends the year on a high note, but strengthens the morale and fosters a culture where everyone feels seen, valued, and motivated to return and build on their successes in the coming year. So, is it only for students? No. Is it only for teachers? No. Is it only for staff? No. It is for every single staff member who worked throughout the academic year in his specific capacity. Even the principal should be celebrating the achievements of the school and should be acknowledged as a leader of change by the board. This is how we can maintain and build on our well-being across all the school community. Why should we focus on this? As we said before, one, it builds the morale and motivation. Two, it reinforces a positive and appreciative school culture. Three, strengthens the relationships and the sense of belonging. Four, highlights academic, social, and personal development. Five, encourages continued excellence and engagement in the following year. As we have done for the previous tasks, we will do for this last one. We will look at the roles and responsibilities of all stakeholders. Looking at the principal role, which is key, the principal can champion a culture of recognition and appreciation by hosting award ceremonies for staff and students, approving award criteria and recognition categories, writing personalized messages, letters, or speeches acknowledging key accomplishments for all his team, and ensuring that budget and logistic support for celebrations are in place. Senior leadership team, they will oversee the nomination and selection process for staff awards, facilitate the cross-functional recognition, and ensure consistency across grades and departments in student and teacher award categories. Middle-level leaders, they will nominate students and staff for academic and personal growth, celebrate teaching team contributions, and organize subject-specific showcases. The supervisors or the instructional coaches, they will identify and recognize teachers who demonstrated growth, resilience, or pedagogical innovation. They will collect feedback from mentees or coaches to celebrate mentorship impact, and they will contribute to planning appreciation events or recognition boards. Curriculum hats, they will highlight the outstanding academic achievements linked to the curriculum goals. They will recognize departments or teachers who successfully implemented curriculum improvements. They will feature student work that exemplifies the deep learning or creativity or innovation, and they will assist on documenting and sharing success stories in end of reports or newsletters. The inclusion department, they can nominate students who made significant progress on their IEP goals, coordinate alternative forms of recognition for students with diverse needs, and highlight effective collaboration between support staff and teachers. Teachers, they will create the classroom-based celebration. It might be a thank you note, slideshows, or student spotlights. Provide some notes and quotes for school publications or award ceremonies, and celebrate colleagues through team thank you letters or shared appreciation activities. They can also nominate students for awards based on effort, progress, or character, not just grades. Looking at the assessment coordinator role, they can create visual displays or dashboards for student achievements across levels, contribute to presentations or ceremonies with data stories, highlighting on growth, equity, improvements. They can help identify trends worth celebration by highlighting on significant improvements in readings or math, providing performance data to support awards nomination by highlighting on the top growth or top achievers, recognizing the efforts and success of both students and staff not only boosts morale, but also reinforces the idea that growth, perseverance, and effort are valued above all else. This, in turn, creates a school environment where everyone feels empowered, supported, and motivated to achieve their personal best. The expected outcomes here will be improved morale and motivation among staff and students, a strong culture of appreciation and belonging, greater student engagement and ownership, positive closure to the school year, and energized preparation for the next. As the academic year draws to a close, schools stand at a critical threshold, not simply of conclusion, but of transformation. In most traditional settings, the end of year routine is characterized by a checklist mentality, which is focused on submit grades, return material, clean classroom, hold few celebration, and send students off for summer. These actions, while necessary, are often executed in isolation and lack deeper purpose. But in an outstanding school, the end of the academic year is a reflective, strategic, and community-driven process. It is a season not only for closure, but for intentional review, meaningful collaboration, and forward-looking preparation. Outstanding schools approach this phase with a mindset that the year does not merely end, it evolves into a foundation for the next. The distinction lies in how these schools elevate ordinary tasks into transformative practices that shape their learning culture, enhance professional growth, and ultimately drive sustained student achievement. This evolution is guided by the 6 tasks that we spoke about. reviewing student progress and outcome, reflecting on instructional practices, documenting and closing out the year, professional collaboration, planning for improvement, and celebrating achievement. Each task is not performed in isolation or as an afterthought, but interwoven into a larger vision of educational excellence and continuous improvement. Finally, an outstanding school never ends the year without pausing to celebrate its achievement. These celebrations are not limited to high achieving students. They are inclusive, meaningful, and aligned with the school's values. Academic accomplishment, social emotional growth, creativity, resilience, and community contributions are all lifted up through ceremonies, showcases, and storytellings. Beyond events, schools may document the year's highlights through video creation, creating a legacy of joy and accomplishment that continues to inspire into future. In sum, the end of the academic year in an outstanding school is not a wind down, but start up a carefully orchestrated sequence of reflection, collaboration, documentation, and forward planning that transforms the past year into fuel for future growth. Each of the tasks is treated not as a formality, but as a pillar of a continuous improvement model. Each stakeholder, be it a teacher, leader, student, family member, or support staff, plays a vital role, and the synergy of their contributions produces a school environment that is adaptive, learner-centered, and driven by purpose. The expected outcomes of this approach are clear: improved student achievement, enhanced professional capacity, stronger relationships, and a culture of excellence that lasts for years. Outstanding schools do not merely close their doors for the summer, they build bridges for the future, guided by insight, united by purpose, and energized by the belief that every year can be better than the last. The final bell of the school year in such a school does not signify an ending, but a powerful new beginning.